Hello and welcome to News 6 Extra. I am streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. She is out on assignment, but she'll be back at 4 for your forecast. We've got a lot to get to today. Of course, today marks 9 years since the attack on Pulse nightclub in downtown Orlando that caused the death of 49 people. There are remembrances happening throughout the day. Families are visiting the site of the Pulse attack even right now, and there will be remembrance ceremonies later this evening marking each of the 49 victims. That'll be coming up. We'll have more on that coming up in just a few minutes, and we'll have coverage all day long about that. We're also taking a look at the latest in the Osceola County Sheriff suspension, and one of his most recent co-defendant to face a judge has just bonded out of jail since he faced the judge yesterday afternoon. News 6's Andrew Casada has been out at the jail all week long waiting for Sheriff Marcos Lopez to potentially walk out of that jail. We'll have the latest on that coming up in a few minutes. And we're also going to be looking at a deadly plane crash that happened in India that caused the deaths of more than 240 people. That plane was headed towards England from India and crashed moments after takeoff. It's the first time a plane of this kind, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, has had a crash like this. So we'll have all the details coming up a little bit later in our show. But first, we're going to get a check on the weather. Let's take a look out over downtown Orlando right now. You can see it is cloudy out there, but dry. The sky, it's still bright and sunny out, and of course, it is hot. We should be getting used to that at this point, but I don't think I ever will be used to it, quite frankly. For more on what we can expect for the rest of the day, we turn to News 6 meteorologist David Nazario. David, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Thomas. I just couldn't help but crack up with we should be used to the weather by now and the heat, but I don't think I ever will. And I hate to say it, my friend, but we've got another solid 5 to 6 months to hang out and try to get used to it.
I know. I'm just stay hydrated. That's
exactly. That's the best way to do it. Best way to go about it.
So in addition to the heat, though, it is going to rain today, although our rain chances have gone down. We shouldn't see the types of storms we were seeing a little bit earlier in the week when it was monsoon season here in Central Florida.
It almost felt like kind of reminiscent of when I would deal with the desert southwest monsoon back during my time in Tucson. But no, as a matter of fact, we had a couple interesting things happen. Not only is the Atlantic high pressure off to our east helping to kind of funnel up lots of tropical moisture from our south, just generally across the peninsula, but we're also borrowing moisture to our west as well, having that come into the northern half of the peninsula. And then surprisingly, I know it's the hurricane season and there wasn't anything really special about it, but we actually had a very weak tropical wave wander through our pattern and help to up our moisture as well directly over top the peninsula. That's why the sea breeze was so robust yesterday. And if I take you over to the radar right now, you can already see the East Coast once again is firing up. We've seen initiation within the last 20, 30 minutes, and you can see from as far north as just to the south of Daytona Beach, getting closer to Titusville, Rockledge, all of Brevard County, for the most part, squeaking into Orange County now. We've already got bona fide thunderstorms firing up, and that's going to continue during the afternoon hours of today. Yesterday, we saw the peak around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then surprisingly those thunderstorms were just hanging out with us for the rest of the night. I remember back home in Haines City, I could still hear the snap crackle pop of thunder and lightning by as late as 10:30 at night. So we're going to be seeing if all those thunderstorms are going to be spending their time with us again later on this evening. And because they stuck around for as long as they did, if you take a look at this, it's somewhat spotty. You could see the pockets of heavier rainfall that we briefed you yesterday, and we're going to continue that repetition this afternoon. Notice up near the villages, Leesburg into Lake County, portions of western Orange County, and then just to the immediate south of my neighborhood up there in Polk County, you can see on average we got anywhere between 2.5 to almost 4 inches of rain in some spots. That's why WPC Weather Prediction Center had us plastered for the level 1 risk for excessive rainfall. It's coming through very isolated. You just kind of have to, it's the luck of the draw, if you will. If those thunderstorms blow up very rapidly, rain themselves out, and just stay with you because we lose the influence of anything trying to steer them in any direction away from you, that's when you'll see those heavy rainfall accumulations pile up in really, really rapid fashion. For the day today, no severe risk, although I want to keep bringing this up because Storm Prediction Center really hasn't had us highlighted for severe weather in a couple days now, but we have had occasional special weather statements for gusty winds and maybe one or two severe thunderstorm warnings every day here somewhere in the Florida Peninsula, despite a designation lacking from their part. Not trying to call them out or put them on blast or anything, but just letting you know, as you can see here on the explainer there, we do have the sea breeze thunderstorms taking effect mid afternoon. Some isolated strong storms are possible with the heavier bouts of rainfall happening, and it'll pile up very quickly all at once. We have also lost the excessive rainfall outlook for the day today. You can see we're back to normal, not expecting widespread heavy rainfall. It will come in those isolated pockets. And this is a graphic I've been leaning on for the last couple days. I want to take you through it together. You can see I have a couple counties raised up. Is your county highlighted? And the reason I have you designated the way that I do is this is where we could likely see our heaviest downpours as we go through the second half of your Friday eve, your Thursday afternoon. Going to be expecting frequent lightning, some gusty winds, and there could be an occasional power outage if we do get some sportier thunderstorms to take effect. And notice Lake County is kind of discolored in comparison to Marion and Sumter County. I have you all in green mainly because our models are kind of splitting the difference, splitting you down the middle. Some of our forecast models that highlight the thunderstorm activity really want to bias the west side of our peninsula. So from Marion, Sumter down into the western half of Polk, with some of the more explosive development occurring in Orange and Osceola before it spreads out. Yesterday we had a pretty phenomenal example of that here at the news station. Had a line of thunderstorms coming in off the East Coast and they fizzled out and kind of just spread off in different directions, missed us altogether. So we're going to be watching that very closely to see exactly whether or not that plays out. Here's a look at our clouds and rain. You can see that development, and it does show a little bit of action getting into Lake County, but notice once again as that west coast sea breeze finally makes its way inland towards the early evening hours of tonight by about 6 to 7 o'clock, we're going to be seeing those showers and storms marinating over southern Sumter, most of Polk, and then even the western fringes of Osceola County, where we've already seen some pretty gratuitous rainfall totals piling up. So don't be surprised if we may get another additional inch or two if those thunderstorms decide to kick back and relax right over top your neighborhood or your local area for the foreseeable evening. Here's a look at that wet pattern. I just wanted to bring this up very quickly. We're not going to spend too much time here. You can see we have winds coming in out of the west off the Gulf, helping to kind of channel this corridor of moisture right on the western flank of the Bermuda high pressure out there over the eastern, or I should say the central and western Atlantic. So that's going to be driving the moisture for the next couple days, even though it is expected to start to weaken and push back towards the west ever so slightly, getting us out of that channel of moisture. Your hour by hour temperatures were once again flirting with the 100-degree feel like temperature, so it is going to be a hot one. I want to emphasize that. Even though our rain chances are fairly elevated, we may as well consider ourselves in Central Florida into the summertime. We're seeing very summer like conditions out there, even though per the calendar, we still have about 8 days to go before summer is officially in effect. But regardless, you definitely want to stay hydrated, take care of yourself, wear the sunscreen if you're taking advantage of the intermittence in our showers and storms out there. And I also want to highlight this as that high pressure begins to build back in overhead. Notice Climate Prediction Center as we get into the backside of June has us plastered for the below average precipitation, and it definitely keeps the heat cranking. So we're going to be kind of fluctuating back and forth from a lot of rain to a lot of heat and vice versa. Watching the tropics, it is hurricane season. I'll take you full screen so you can notice on the left-hand side of the screen, we do have an invest out there in the Eastern Pacific with another area of interest just to the immediate east of that. We're going to be watching that yellow blip, to tell you the truth. It's not of any concern here in Florida, but it does look like into tomorrow and perhaps through the weekend, National Hurricane Center may want to turn their attention to that puppy because it could be our last-ditch effort to produce our first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season somewhere in the western Gulf. That's where we've been watching very closely. Trends today do suggest there is a bit of a higher chance something sloppy and very ugly tries to tow itself out there. But again, Florida, we're sitting pretty right now. We're just kind of waiting for the Atlantic season to kick off, and we'll continue to keep you updated as it decides to do so. Last but certainly not least, here's a look at your extended range forecast. Notice the rain chances do start to taper off a little bit as that high pressure nudges its way back into our neighborhood, but then just as mentioned, that repetitive fashion, the rhythm we're going to be following, that ebbing and flowing between gaining some heat and then bringing back the rainfall full time, that is going to be the song and dance for pretty much the rest of the month ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, look forward to those afternoon showers to cool us down. But, as you said, it doesn't seem like we're going to get too much relief. It's going to be so hot before it starts raining. Yeah, it's not going to do much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nope. And then if you have the misfortune to more or less just kind of get, sprinkled on, throw some Salt Bay at you, then the humidity is just going to ripen back up and you're going to be right into those heat indexes of anywhere between 98 to almost 100 degrees. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Rough stuff. But it's Florida. It's summer. We have to deal with it. All right, David, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Of course, Thomas. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Okay, today does mark 9 years since the attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. 49 people were killed in that attack, and the city of Orlando is working right now to finalize a contractor to build a permanent memorial to those victims. If all goes well, the plan is to have it constructed by 2027. Now, today there are several remembrances happening around the city, with the big remembrance happening at 5:30 this evening. We will carry that live, streaming on clickorlando.com and on YouTube. But people are honoring those victims throughout the day, and at Pulse Nightclub, the families are getting the chance to see the facility. News 6's Mark Lehman has been following that effort to provide some closure for the families and the survivors of the Pulse Nightclub attack.
It was a quiet and somber morning as the community is marking 9 years since the Pulse massacre. Among those paying their respects was an Orlando health surgeon who helped treat some of the victims from that fateful morning.
We're here for whatever happens in our community. We are proud to have been there for them, and we'll continue to be here.
The message coming as survivors and family of the 49 victims are getting private access inside the building.
If that's something that these families believe is going to help them heal in any way, I think that's extremely important for them.
The first groups walking through yesterday, that included Christine Leinenen, who was overcome with thoughts of her son, Christopher.
Over 20 people died on that dance floor, the dance floor that I just walked around. And it's heartbreaking as a mother.
For many, the visits are important as it will be their only chance to be inside Pulse. The city plans to tear down the building later this year and build a permanent memorial. An emotional journey for many still suffering through the pain of their lost loved ones.
I would have regretted it if I didn't go through it, and I needed to see where my son took his last breath.
That was News 6's Mark Lehman reporting. And as I said, there will be remembrances throughout the day. We'll have coverage all day long, starting on News 6 at 4. News 6 anchor Lisa Bell will be out at Pulse field anchoring for us. And again, we will carry the remembrance ceremony at 5:30 live on clickorlando.com and the News 6 YouTube page. You'll be able to watch it as the names of the victims are read and bells are rung for each of them, all 49 victims. Now we turn to Lake County, where we are still awaiting Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez to leave the Lake County Jail. He is currently being held on racketeering charges connected to a gambling and corruption scheme, according to prosecutors. But while we're waiting for Sheriff Lopez to leave the jail, one of his co-defendants, who just turned himself in yesterday, bonded out just hours after facing a judge. News 6's Angie Casada has been out there waiting to see when the sheriff might leave the jail.
I'm Angie Casada in Lake County, where the latest co-defendant arrested and released on bond says he never met Marcos Lopez, but he did admit to knowing some of the other co-defendants in this case, all of them accused of being a part of a massive illegal gambling operation that has the sheriff behind bars. 58-year-old Sheldon Weatherholt, one of 4 alleged co-defendants of suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez, bonded out of jail on Wednesday, just hours after facing a judge on racketeering charges.
No, all I did was licenses and leases. This was not anything that I thought was anything that it turned out to be.
Weatherholt claims he doesn't even know Lopez, despite prosecutors tying them both to a sprawling illegal gambling ring that allegedly ran out of the Eclipse Social Club.
I have no idea who that is.
The sheriff, Osceola sheriff.
I've never met the man. I don't know who the man is. Please leave me alone, please.
Weatherholt is the third co-defendant to bond out.
I mean, I'm looking at the rest of my life in prison. I'm a 60-year-old man with 2 children that I take care of at home that are depending on me because of their problems, and yeah, you know, I feel like my whole world is crumbling down right now.
As for Marcos Lopez, he's still here, the only one behind bars with a $1 million bond. And there's no news yet if or when he'll be walking free. Reporting in Lake County, Angie Casada, News 6.
Now, we have some new documents connected to that case that News 6 reporter Laverne McGee is going over as we speak, and she will have more coming up starting on News 6 at 4. Right now, the city of St. Cloud is getting ready to potentially approve an application that will apply for some federal funds with the goal ultimately of being able to hire more first responders, more firefighters, and more police officers. Stephanie Rodriguez, our community correspondent for St. Cloud, has that story.
I'm Stephanie Rodriguez, your Osceola County community correspondent. St. Cloud is the latest city thinking about adding first responders to be able to keep up with all of the growth they've been seeing, while other communities have added or considered adding a fee to residents to help hire first responders. St. Cloud isn't there just yet, so they're looking for federal money to help them in this effort.
Our job as a city is to manage that growth.
St. Cloud is trying to offset the cost of hiring first responders with federal money. On the police side, they're set to apply for a $750,000 COPS grant to add 6 officers.
So the last COPS grant that we just had, we got, I think it was 2 years ago, we have a community engagement unit that we built. And I will tell you, it's just been a wonder what they do. They do hundreds of community engagement events per year. They engage our youth. They run our Citizens Police Academy. They also do our Explorer program. So with that being said, we're applying for another one.
At the fire department, Union President John Jones says a SAFER grant from FEMA to help them hire 48 more firefighters could cut response times in half.
So when it takes us 12 to 14 minutes to get to a call, that can have an impact on the outcome.
The total cost for the hires is $16 million. They're asking FEMA for almost $10 million to bring the city's cost to $6.2 million. While other municipalities like Kissimmee have approved new fees to hire firefighters, an option Sanford is also considering, St. Cloud hasn't. But the fire chief tells me it's not off the table.
Anything's possible at this point. Obviously that's a great retention and recruitment tool. So at this point, I can't really say a whole lot more than that, but it's something that's definitely on our radar.
The St. Cloud City Council is expected to approve both grant applications as well as a $10 million contract to build a new fire station here in the city, just one of 3 expected to be added in the next few years. I'm your Osceola County community correspondent, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
With that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. When we come back, we'll have a look at that deadly plane crash in India that killed more than 240 people. That'll be coming up, and we'll also be looking at the latest on the ICE protests that are happening across the country, but most notably in Los Angeles. That'll be coming up in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to News 6 Extra. The time now is 12:50. I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. She is out on assignment, but she'll be back for News 6 at 4. Earlier today, a plane that was bound for England from India crashed. This is the first time a Boeing 787 Dreamliner has crashed, and officials over in India do not believe there are any survivors. CBS News' Chris Livesay shows us the latest.
This video captures the Boeing jet's last seconds in the sky, taking off in India, bound for London, when it loses altitude and bursts into a huge fireball. The Air India flight went down in a residential area in the western city of Ahmedabad, fueled for a 4,000-mile journey to the UK.
So it was leaving with a full capacity of fuel. So we're looking at about 130 tons of fuel that were on the aircraft. That caused a massive explosion, and as a result, the damage on the scene will be intense.
The plane was carrying passengers from Canada, Britain, Portugal, and India. And they were all heading here to London's Gatwick Airport.
My thoughts, and I'm sure those of the entire House, are with those who've been affected by the tragic plane crash in India.
India's civil aviation says pilots issued a mayday right after takeoff and lost its signal less than a minute into the flight. The tail of the 787 Dreamliner is resting on top of what CBS News has verified is a hospital. Reuters news agency says at least 30 bodies have been recovered from a building where the plane crashed, and many more people are trapped inside. The National Transportation Safety Board is headed to India to lead a team of U.S. investigators helping pinpoint what caused the crash. Chris Livesay, CBS News, London.
We're also taking a look at the expanding ICE protests. More protests and demonstrations are popping up across the country, from Washington and all across the West Coast out to Philadelphia, with more protests expected this weekend, coinciding with the 250th anniversary parade of the Continental Army, which is set to take place in Washington, D.C. CBS News' Carter Evans shows us more of the demonstrations happening across the U.S.
In downtown Los Angeles, dozens of protesters were arrested and loaded onto police buses for failing to disperse. But it was a more chaotic scene in other parts of the country, including 900 miles north here in Spokane, Washington, where police broke up crowds by firing pepper balls.
I want a lawyer!
In Tucson, Arizona, several people were detained after protests led to smashed windows outside an ICE office. But earlier on Wednesday in Los Angeles, where protests have now entered a seventh day, surveillance video appeared to show federal agents boxing in a car. Witnesses say they fired tear gas before detaining the driver.
As soon as I got here, the gal that was in the car was out here with her two babies. Literally one like in a crib and the other one maybe a year and a half years old. They grabbed the driver, which was her partner, threw him into the truck and took off.
The Department of Homeland Security says the man was a violent rioter who punched an officer.
I said a
Fueling the protests are images like these of agents raiding workplaces, chasing a man through a California coastal farm, and detaining more than 70 people at this meatpacking plant in Omaha, Nebraska.
You're always looking around to see if ICE agents.
Exactly. Outside a Home Depot, day laborer Ricardo told us he came to the U.S. from Mexico 30 years ago.
It's very dangerous for us. I don't have option working in another place.
When you raid Home Depots and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, you're trying to cause fear and panic.
Two DHS officials have confirmed to CBS News that 330 undocumented migrants have been arrested here in the LA area since operations began on Friday. Meanwhile, the presence of the National Guard isn't just being felt here in Los Angeles, also in other parts of the country. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Before we let you go, we want to show you the story of a Florida boy who is dealing with a neurological condition that prevented him from even hugging his parents. It's called dystonia. It's not dissimilar to something that happens to patients with Parkinson's disease, where the body just locks up and you can't move despite your best efforts. But a new surgery for pediatric patients called, A new surgery that is now being used on pediatric patients called DBS, deep brain stimulation, is getting results for that young boy. Lauren Pastrana has the story.
Tamron Hendon's family goes to great lengths for his health, driving from Tallahassee to Miami for treatment.
Recharging once a week.
And putting a device in his chest to stimulate his brain.
So I'm only lowering the left side of your brain.
On a recent visit to Nicholas Children's Hospital, one of the few pediatric hospitals in the country performing deep brain stimulation, his doctor fine-tuned his settings.
It was miraculous. And now he swims, he rides a bike, he runs, he could do whatever he did before the onset.
But just over a year ago, Tamron's life looked very different.
I couldn't hug her. I tried.
In fact, he could barely move and was in a lot of pain due to severe dystonia, a movement disorder that causes muscles to contract.
He couldn't hold himself upright, and his back would bend and he would fall over. And it would be worse later in the day.
His parents sought help from doctors all over the state before meeting Dr. Migvis Mondui.
Even sitting in a wheelchair became very, very uncomfortable for him, so he was mostly bedridden at that point.
After running tests, Dr. Mondui found Tamron's dystonia was the result of a genetic mutation that responds well to deep brain stimulation.
This gets implanted typically under the skin in the chest area, and then there are cables that are going to be connected to this. Those are the leads, and those are going to be tunneled under the skin and then through the skull into the brain.
The device delivers electrical impulses that regulate abnormal brain signals like the ones that cause dystonia, Parkinson's disease, or epilepsy.
It was a really hard time, but now his cheerful self is back.
His parents say it feels like science fiction, but they're so grateful for this new reality. Lauren Pastrana, CBS News, Miami.
That'll do it for us here on News 6 Extra. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll be back starting on News 6 at 4. Julie Broughton will be here with your forecast. And, of course, we'll have all of the day's headlines, including all the remembrances for the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting, which happened 9 years ago today. We'll also be carrying the remembrance ceremony at 5:30 live on clickorlando.com and the News 6 YouTube page. And, of course, you can watch it here on News 6 Plus as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a pleasant day.